you declutter, most of the time you come across those items that you're holding on to just in case you might need them. So today we're going to talk about what you do with those items when you want to declutter.
How do you go about decluttering just in case items? Interesting.
When it comes to decluttering just in case items, the first thing we have to do is talk about what those items are and why we hold on to them.
First thing that springs into mind for myself is our big plates that we got at IKEA a few years ago when we were expecting everybody in my family and their grandma to come over. Wait, their grandma would also be in the family. So anyways, we had a lot of people coming over. We bought big plates. We never used them apart from that Christmas, and then we held on to them down here in that little
cupboard that you can't see, but it's here, trust us.
For a long time.
2 years?
2 years.
Yeah.
So those just in case items that you might be struggling with may be things that you used to have a use for, maybe as a one-time thing or for a limited time, and then all of a sudden you just don't need them anymore, but you're still holding on to them just in case.
Or it could be something that you had a need for at one point and you didn't have that item, and then you experienced some sort of trauma or discomfort from not having that item, and then you went out and got tons of them just to be safe so you would have them next time.
Should we say something about our surprise announcement?
Can we finish this here first and then we can
get
into that mode? Another thing that might keep you from decluttering just in case items is the idea of wanting to become the kind of person who has this or that, who does this or that. So for example, I used to really want to knit. And I got a bunch of knitting needles and I was gonna say thread, but yarn. And then I started knitting a baby hat for my niece when she was born, and a poncho. That's my second thing, obviously. And I thought it was really fun, but I haven't done that since. Like, I did those two things and that was like it.
Why do I not remember this at all?
I don't know, we lived in Iceland at the time. His grandma came over and taught me. She's like amazing at knitting.
She is actually like a knitting goddess. I mean, if
Basically.
you need anything knitted, then talk to my grandma. I don't think she's taking orders, but
But she does take orders from her kids. Like,
oh, my mittens are a little bit too small. 2 hours later, ta-da!
The point that I was trying to make here is that I used to knit, and I really like to be the type of person who settles down the other day and knits something, but I'm just not. I'm not prioritizing it. It's not something that's as important to me as it was once upon a time. So I held on to those knitting things for a long time and finally decluttered them, and I haven't missed them since.
Should I ask about the poncho?
Please don't. It was like really big in one side and the other side was like super tight because I got better. There are other reasons why people might have a hard time decluttering just in case items.
Like stuff that you used to use a lot and don't anymore. I mean, maybe that's kind of like the knitting stuff, but I think it's also maybe not as tied to your like identity of self or whatever. But a good example of that is my computers. We're pretty good at like getting rid of stuff in general. So before I dive into this, let me just say we're not judging anyone for having a hard time with getting rid of just in case items, because it happens to everybody. I'll usually have the computer that I'm using at any given time, and then like the last computer I had just in case, and then like the one before that just in case.
Yeah.
No, is that just in case?
Yeah,
Just
and the
two
one
just in
before
case?
that, you took out the hard drive so you would have that just in case you need that hard drive.
Point made. Oftentimes we hold on to electronics for way longer than we should, but because they were useful and they probably cost a lot of money, then you hold on to them. But hold on, we've got a surprise announcement that we are gonna share with you. Probably knew that if you read the title of the video. So make sure you stick around to the end, and if you haven't already, then hit the subscribe button to follow us on future adventures and click the bell icon so that YouTube will notify you.
Yeah, and you won't miss those adventures. Yay. But back to the topic here. Those reasons are all perfectly valid for not wanting to declutter just in case items. And I mean, there's things that I can relate to, and I'm sure a lot of you can relate to those exact same reasons. However, if you do have a desire to live an uncluttered life, or if you're drawn towards like a more minimalistic lifestyle, then those two things just don't really mix.
I think what a lot of people want is a more purposeful or intentional environment in their home. And then if that's what you're striving for, that's the ideal you're going for, and at the same time you've got your house full of just in case items, then those don't go very well hand in hand. And there's a trade-off. So either you hold on to those things, or you actually make real strides towards that ideal that you're striving for.
Yeah, and it really is like a mental choice that you have to make. Do I want to keep these, or do I want to have this life that I'm imagining wanting? And it's gonna be really hard for you to declutter those just in case items if you haven't really committed to getting that lifestyle.
That said, let's go into solution mode. When you are decluttering just in case items, there are a few questions that you can ask yourself to make it easier to put things into perspective and make a decision that's not just tied to any of those aforementioned reasons.
We've covered this in a few other videos, and we've linked one up here, and you can just search our channel as well, because we have a lot of really good content about decluttering and organizing, so I'm sure you'll find something that fits your exact niche or issue that you're working with right now. But here, we're gonna talk about those questions that you can ask yourself to make sure that you're getting rid of the things that you don't need and you're holding on to the things that you actually do need. And one of those questions is, can I replace this for under $20?
And if the answer is yes, then you're probably safe to get rid of it. If it's not something that you're using on a regular basis and you are holding on to it just in case, then in the meantime, it's just going to be taking up space and making it more difficult for you to find the other things that you do actually need.
Another question you could ask yourself is, have I used this in the last 3 months? And if you haven't used it and it's not very expensive, then it's a lot easier for you to tell yourself it's okay to get rid of this.
The third question you can ask yourself is, how easy is it to replace that item? I mean, is it something that you can just run down the road and grab? Is it something that is relatively accessible? Or is it some sacred artifact that you have from a shrine during your time as a monk in Mongolia?
Those are hard to get again.
I've heard.
I've heard.
Where do I come up with this?
I don't know, but the last question that we always ask ourselves is, okay, what is the worst that can happen if I get rid of this thing? What's the worst that could happen if I need this thing and I don't have it?
Let's do a quick thought experiment. So we've got 3 kids, and with 3 kids comes a lot of stuff. And we've gotten rid of a bunch of that stuff. Among those are Lucas's clothes. So our youngest obviously is growing out of his stuff, as kids do. So let's take, any one of his onesies that he can't fit anymore. We want to get rid of it, but maybe we want to hold on to it. What is the worst that could happen?
Or we had a huge pram, like one of those old-fashioned ones that I envisioned that I was gonna go for so many walks with Lucas, strolls around town, and I ended up using it maybe like 3 times for him. So getting rid of that, what is the worst that can happen?
Or his eating utensils that he's grown out of, his little sippy bottles. I mean, he's not using those anymore. So what is the worst that could happen?
Well, I mean, the worst that can happen is that you end up getting pregnant again, and then you'll need all that stuff again.
Yeah, so you think you're done having kids, and you might even be taking precautions to make sure that's the case, and then you end up getting pregnant anyways.
Sometimes that happens.
Sheep preggers.
Yeah, we're having a 4th kid. We thought we were done, but we're not. And in here, all of Lucas's bottles that he's not really using anymore. So I'm gonna clear out all the stuff that we don't use.
We are super excited. We don't see it as the worst thing that could happen. We are absolutely thrilled to be welcoming a new member to the family. But I mean, it also makes things a little bit more complicated, and sometimes that's just life. Honestly, I mean, this wasn't even close to the first thing that we thought of when we realized we were expecting another baby. And I think that also just really helps solidify and put into perspective, how much do we really need those just in case items?
Exactly.
Turns out, not so much.
With our other kids, we've been gifted a lot of clothes. We have people we can borrow from. Like my sister just had a baby not too long ago.
The pram we're probably not gonna get because we just didn't use it that much. And utensils, baby bottles and stuff, like that kind of stuff is just
you'll get
everywhere. Yeah, I mean, you'll get it probably as a gift, and in the meantime, at least somebody else has found use of those items.
So the worst that can happen is you'll end up needing it again, and then you're gonna be happy that you asked yourself these questions to begin with. Can I replace it for under $20? Did I get it from somewhere really far away where I can't get it? How often do I actually need it? If you ask yourself those questions, then chances are you're not gonna be too sad when you find yourself needing something again.
I think this is probably pretty extreme, on the scale of potential just-in-case scenarios. So again, perspective. What are some just-in-case things that you can declutter today? Let us know by dropping a comment. And also, submit suggestions for baby names. No, what? We're not doing that.
No, we're not. I don't want suggestions for baby names on YouTube.
Although it'd be fun to see what suggestions pop up. I keep trying to convince all my friends that are having kids that Brynjolfur is a really good boy's name, but nobody's taken me up on that offer yet.
Yeah, we're not doing Brynjolfur Jr. either. If it's a boy. We don't know.
Says who?
Says I.
Oh, okay, I guess I was saying it.
Basically, if you think you might have another baby, don't get rid of all your baby stuff. But other than that, you're safe to get rid of a lot more stuff than you think you are. And you'll be surprised at how nice it feels to actually declutter some things.
Yeah, it just makes it easier for you to find stuff because there are less things in your house. It makes it easier to tidy up, again, for the same reason. And when you clean, you don't have to put things away before you start wiping off surfaces and vacuuming.
And also just having less stuff gives you less stress. I mean, seeing things everywhere does tend to give some people stress or anxiety, and having less stuff helps with that.
That's a really good thing if, you know, you thought you were done having kids and then you end up having one more. So if you like this video, give us a like. If you're excited for us, then also give us a like.
Give us a like.
And we'd love to hear your thoughts and comments. And then we'll see you next week.
What is the worst that can happen? Is my house gonna burn down, or if I get I don't know where this is going with this. I don't want to talk about houses burning. Okay. Okay.